Alright, so this is a universal character language. What does that mean? This is actually very simple. Even though it looks incredibly complicated, the idea behind this is simple. This is a universal semantic language. The glyphs are meant to represent concepts or conceptual categories in a loose way where you don't have to think about it too much. And they do it by using everyday, visible things that you can see, rather than abstract notation. Why would you do this? To create a semantic interlingua to translate between languages. That means that you should be able to use the glyphs to translate from French to Japanese. To create a pictographic language of the sciences that will translate between different academic disciplines. Everyone's trying to be interdisciplinary, and you can see the draw here. And the third point is to be an instrument for discovery and invention. It's not just like the glyphs have preset meanings. By playing with the glyphs and manipulating them, you can create novel meanings and make discoveries. So if you want to play with the glyphs, you should go to renpet.net/wiki. You can find all of them there. So when you are here in your workspace, you can see the entire ontology of all of the glyphs. And as you can see, it's a little bit intimidating at first, but it's actually very simple. See, you have 128 of the glyphs right here, and they follow a set pattern of differentiation down the 7 orders that I've explained in my other video, The Meaning of the Glyphs. You can see if you mouse over the glyphs, you can see what their names are. Heaven, earth, fire, water, 2 at the beginning, 2, and then 4 in the third row, going up by the powers of 2 every single order after that. So this is basically the set of the hieroglyphs, and you can see what they mean by mousing over them, but there's more you can do than just looking at the glyphs. You can actually spin these sliders and spin the wheels. So I'm going to start with the first slider here and spin a little bit. I'm spinning the symbols for heaven and earth, and you can see as I'm doing this, all of these sentences are being created, these potential combinations, and you can watch them down here. So what's actually happening here? You've got the glyph for heaven is aligned with the glyph for wall and the glyph for sun, right? And you can see roughly how that vector is formed. And as you're moving the wheel around, the glyphs are aligning with every single other one that passes through its window there. So now you can see we have the symbols for tree and for book right there. And so now I'm spinning the wheel for fire and water, moving that through here. And now fire has come to jump to the position of heaven. It's right there with fire, sky, tree, and book. And now this drop down is for your subject character. This is a very important menu. It's the one where you control what you're focusing on. So right now I've chosen wolf and nothing's focusing on wolf. But if I go back up here and choose water, that's the opposite of the string that was being formed over there. Earth, water, and ship have formed a vector. And you can see because this is a continuous calculator, you can see with fire, sky, fire, and book have formed a vector. But you remember there was another glyph when we were focusing on earth and heaven, the glyph for plant, for tree, and for plant. Heaven is focusing on tree and earth is focusing on plant. Because this is a continuous calculator, so if you focus on a different glyph, you're going to find a different string. Okay, so all of that might seem really, really fun, but it's still not clear what you can do with this. So I've reset the glyphs to position, and if you see, these are all links, and you can click on them. And clicking on the link will open up a unique wiki article right here. And you can see within this article, you've actually got an embed of a list of the meanings. Here, if you go to sky, you can see it a little bit easier, or heaven. Here are all of the meanings that are associated with the glyph sky. There isn't just one name for the glyph, it has multiple meanings. So what can you actually do with this? This is where you can add new meanings there in that field. So let's say I want to give a new meaning for water. I want to say that water can also mean fluid. I'll type that down there in the box, and then I'll hit submit. Then after that, I can click here on the glyph that I just chose, and sometimes it takes a little while, You wait a bit for that to happen. The other thing you have to keep in mind is the glyph that this is stored under is the one that I've chosen in my subject character domain. So there you see fluid has now been stored in the article for water, my new concept name. And it's entirely dependent on which character I choose to focus on from that drop-down menu right there. So by keeping the glyphs at the origin position, you can inscribe whatever extra meanings you want for them. And you should keep in mind that the meanings that are stored in here are not absolute. They're just sort of placeholders. The idea is every glyph has potentially infinite meanings, and technically speaking, there are no wrong answers. But let's say you want to build a more complicated concept. This is where spinning the wheels and creating those combinations really comes in. I'm spinning the wheel right now for fire and water, and I've put them in alignment next to the glyphs for mountain and wind. You can see that water is in alignment with wind, and that fire is in alignment with mountain. So when I go to the drop-down, these are the strings that are produced. Now you'll remember that depending on what drop-down you choose, that affects where a concept is stored. So I'm going to store volcano at fire mountain. Mountain is my subject character, and fire is modifying mountain. And then going down here for wind, I'm going to store the concept storm right there. That's a watery wind we're going to call a storm. But now I can also store things at the other characters. So if I go here to fire, I have a mountainous fire, which I'm going to call a bonfire, a very big mountain fire. And if I go over here to water, I have a windy water, which I'm going to call a wave. So now, when I go here and look at mountain for my new concept, I find that I have saved the string fire mountain as volcano when mountain is our subject character, and I have the string fire mountain as bonfire when fire is our subject character. Likewise, if I go over here for water, I find that we have wave for water wind when water is the subject character, and we have storm for water wind when wind is the subject character. But there's one more thing that you can do with this tool, which is where it really becomes truly interactive, is every time you create a new combination at a string of glyphs, you create a new Wikipedia article for that string. Now, I've already got an account on the wiki, which is why I can create articles. If you really want to do the extra credit step, you can also add attributes that you want to describe about your new string as an encyclopedia article. So I'm just going to write a short line about volcanoes, and a really good article in the wiki is going to start, the first word in the article will be the glyph character string that you've just created. And then you may want to put in quotes the actual string from the lexicon. And then there you go. You've saved your page and you've created a new encyclopedia which other people can consult whenever they go and look at your new concept. Now, if you want to get back to the main page, you just click on the monad in the upper left-hand corner, and that will take you down back to where you were before. Or if you don't want to just multiply entities, you can go back to the tab you were at before. And that's it, folks. If you have any questions, just reach out and let me know. I'm on Twitter as @Couch.